In this example, we're going to be looking at populations versus sample and parameters versus statistics, specifically identifying these within an actual example. The data we're looking at here comes from the Pew Research Center, and we've got it in a table on the right side and then just a statement on the top left. We see that a survey of 1,507 U.S. adults found that 65% feel the government is not doing enough for the elderly. Now, right off the bat, the thing we want to focus on here is what is our sample. Now, when we identify a sample, we're looking for A, how many, and B, who. So in this case, they surveyed 1,507, so that's the first thing we'll write down here. Our sample involves 1,507, and 1,507 who? Well, 1,507 U.S. adults. So when we go to identify our sample, once again, how many, and who. For here on out, when we refer to how many people were asked, we'll go ahead and we'll refer to this as N. That is, N is going to be our sample size. So in this case, N is 1,507, and when we talk about the sample, we also identify who? 1,507 adults. That's the sample. Now we want to figure out who are we trying to generalize to. That is, surely I don't care just about that 1,507 people. Rather, I want to know about, well, in this case, I want to know about all U.S. adults. And so that's going to be our population. Our sample should have the same characteristic. It should come from the same group. We want to know about U.S. adults, so we surveyed them. The only difference is our population is that entire group versus our sample being a select subset or a group from that larger population. So we surveyed 1,507, and we want to know about all U.S. adults. The next question is, well, what do we know about them? What do we want to know about them? In this case, we found out that 65% of them feel the government is not doing enough for the elderly. This is our statistic because it comes from the 1,507. That's not the opinion of all U.S. adults, but rather just our smaller group. So our statistic here will be 65% feel the government is not doing enough for the elderly. Now, once again, that's our statistics because it comes from the 1,507. The parameter is what we're trying to figure out. Now, I found that 65% of those people feel the government is not doing enough for the elderly. What I'm trying to figure out is what percent of all U.S. adults feel that way. So my parameter here is what percent of all U.S. adults feel the government is not doing enough for the elderly. It's important to understand that most of the time we're not going to know the actual parameter. The only time I could find the actual parameter is if I could ask everyone, that is, in this case, if I could ask all U.S. adults how they feel about this issue. Because we're not going to normally know what the parameter is, instead, what we'll do is we'll write it as this little descriptive sentence. I know 65% of the 1,507 U.S. adults feel this way. That's my statistic. I want to know what percent of all U.S. adults feel this way. That's the parameter.